It's currently Friday the 12th of July, and on Sunday the 14th of July, in 2 days' time, I'm doing the Xterra Ultra Marathon in Snowdonia. So I want to first cover the kit list, so there's a mandatory kit list for the race. I then want to cover a quick run through of the whole course, and we're then going to start from Saturday morning, so leaving for the race, staying over in Llanberis, and then doing the race on Sunday. I'm doing the Ultra, which starts at 6:30, and my fiance and then 3 of my other friends are also running the 10k as well, so we're going over in a big group, and we're all staying in a nice Airbnb in Llanberis. So it should be a good weekend. I did the UTS 50k last year, which was my first Ultra, and was pretty difficult. I've definitely learned a couple of lessons since then, and hopefully this one, touch wood, should be a little easier. It is actually 2,200 meters of elevation. The UTMB, or UTS I should say, for last year was like 3,300, and it was like the hottest day in the world apparently this year. So yeah, it was really hot, it was difficult. This year is looking a lot cooler, so it should be pretty good. So there's a mandatory kit list for the race, so I'm going to kind of read it out from my iPad here, just show what I've brought. So yeah, let's do it. First one is a waterproof jacket and trousers. Now the trousers are super annoying for this one. So my waterproof jacket, I've just got a really simple North Face. I used it. I packed it last year. I didn't need to use it because it was like being on the sun. So I used this. And then the waterproof trousers. Now, yeah, that's what I do. Because I only use a fairly sort of small pack, I try and kind of do this as tightly as I possibly can and just kind of stuff it right down at the bottom of the pack. I, touch wood, shouldn't need it this year, but it's part of the mandatory kit, so what can you do? Part of the mandatory kit as well is gloves, and I sort of do the same thing. I mean, not a great job, but I like try and squish it as much as I possibly can, and that also sits right at the bottom of the bag as well. Part of the mandatory kit is suitable off-road trail running shoes. I mean, yeah, why wouldn't you have these, I suppose? These are the ones I used last year. These are the Sportiva Bushido 2s. Really good. I've kind of always sworn by these, so these are going to be coming along for the day as well. You need a hat / buff and gloves, so I use this. Just my normal La Sportiva hat, and I also have a beanie at the bottom of the bag as well. This comes in super handy. It looks like we might get patches of sun throughout the day, so yeah, having this is good. And one thing you can do as well if it gets really hot is you can just like take this off, stick this in water or a stream, stick it on your head, and then you've kind of got like a nice cool down effect, which is quite nice. You've got to have a whistle as well, and this actually comes on here. So I use this Montaigne pack, and if I can find it, one of like the little straps has it on. This is where I can't find it now. Yeah, it's inside this little pocket here, so inside this pocket there's a tiny little whistle kind of attached to the zip, which is quite cool. This is what I'm using. So this is the Montaigne, what's it called? Montaigne Veer. So it has like the little packs in the front for the water here, so I have those 2 squishy bottles they go in. They stay full of water during the race, and I just top up at each aid station. Next item is a foil blanket and bag. I use this here, hopefully I don't look like this guy. Look at his little, yeah, he looks pretty miserable, doesn't he? Yeah, that's part of the mandatory kit, so this again just stays right at the bottom, but you never know where you're going to need it, or if you come across someone else who maybe doesn't have this, yeah, always useful to have, and it's super light. You just squish it in and it stays at the bottom, so that's good. Next one is drinking water. Pretty obvious, yeah, we have drinking water. My strategy for this race is a bit different. Last year what I did, I had 1 squishy bottle full of water and 1 with Tailwind, and I was just sort of doing the sachets. What I do this year, I got this, I think from Chris Branch, I hope I've got the name right. So I use Tailwind, and what I do is I kind of have like a big half-litre thing I stick right in the back of the pack, and I make like a Tailwind sludge, which sounds really appealing, doesn't it? So I have like a Tailwind sludge which sits in the back, and then I kind of try and time it so like every 90 minutes or so, I'll have maybe like, I don't know, a quarter or whatever it is of the bottle, and then top up with the regular water here. It just saves faffing around so that I'm not like dosing at each aid station. I can just kind of have this 1 bottle with all of it in and just top it up with water each time I get to a stop. Next thing you need is your phone, fully charged. Yeah, that'll be come along, it's here somewhere, but yeah. In terms of supplementary kit, what am I bringing? So it does recommend, it's got some additional permitted kit. So there's a GPS device with route downloaded, so I use my Garmin Forerunner 245 to record the race. Extra warm layer, I've got that as well. So there's a compass and a map. I don't really bring that. I think it was mandatory for the one last year, but no. I've got the route kind of pretty much just out in my head. We'll go through that shortly in just a minute. Next one is poles. Yeah, I use these Solomon Ultras. Currently like quite scratched because I on a practice run down the Llanberis path. I fell over in front of about 20 people, and yeah, that's why they're scratched, so embarrassing and very silly. But poles, oh my god, it's such a godsend. The UTS last year, there were 3 separate people who commented saying, oh, you're not using poles. Wow, okay. And I was like, sure, maybe I should buy some poles. So invested in some poles last year, and the difference is just ridiculous. I find like I can spend a couple of miles just really like leaning into the poles, take some weight off the feet, and then, you know, you can then put the poles away or just hold them, and you can then go fast again for a few miles. So poles, amazing investment, really, really good. Last one, the additional permitted, is suntan lotion. So what I do for this, I put a load on in the morning from like a big bottle, and I just take a little one like this. So this just sort of sits in the side of the pack here. This is really important. I think this really saved me last year. When it's beaming sun all day, I think people don't realise the effect the sun has on you. Just being outside, being battered by it for like 8, 10, 12 hours, the effect is pretty insane. So just making sure that you can cover as much as possible. So, you know, having like a t-shirt on and make sure you kind of get this bit, make sure your hat's trying to cover some of your face. I was really vigilant last year with putting this on. I don't think I got any sunburn, but I think if you had sunburn on top of doing that race, yeah, you'd be in pretty bad shape. In terms of food, I made the mistake of trying to be like healthy during the run last year. So I brought like, well, I say healthy, you know, those like horrible kind of cereal bars that are like granola, peanut butter. Say healthy, but then when you're really thirsty and you try and drink them, they're just like, it's like trying to eat like a thing of cardboard, and it's pretty horrible. So my last 2 marathons, I literally just brought these Tang Fastics on with a tailwind. I think one, because they're just nice. You know, if you're like on kind of the back end of a run and you know your morale's a bit low, it's just quite nice. It's nice to have some sweets. If you're not running super fast, I found I've not had an issue at all with getting a stitch from these. So they're nice, they do the job, they get in calories and sugar, and for me, it seems really nice as well. And also got some Oreos, so we'll see how they do. I mean, they feel broken already, but yeah, let's see. What else have I got? I've got some plasters as well. I often bring a spare pair of socks along with the plasters, only because if you get into a situation where you have like wet feet and you have wet socks, that's a really kind of crappy way to get like hot spots in your feet. So if something starts to rub early on in the race, yeah, it can end up pretty badly. So a spare pair of socks, so if your socks get completely wet, you can kind of change them at an aid station, and trying to put these over any potential hot spots. So just being vigilant, like if something feels like it's starting to niggle, I think it's best to kind of pull off quickly, get something over it, covering it, maybe use some Vaseline around it, and just be vigilant and on top of any kind of hot spots or pains earlier in the race. Even if it means stopping before an aid station, make sure that your feet are protected against any kind of blisters. If you get a blister halfway through, you don't want to be running like 25k of a blister, that's going to suck. Last but not least, I'm going to be filming the whole race on this GoPro as well. So we'll see how this goes. I've not actually ran with it before, so yeah, could be good. I have a checklist here as well, which just kind of helps me kind of take some mental load off. And I think part of the prep for this, I started like a week ago, so I've not done any really kind of heavy runs. I actually had I think a slight chest infection, I'm not too sure. So I've been kind of recovering from that. I had a slight calf injury as well, so I've really just been taking it easy, really gentle maintenance runs. I've done all my training, I've done 2 marathons in like the last couple of months. A lot of kind of heavy leg days in the gym, so I feel pretty good, pretty confident. I feel like I've got the Ultra from last year under my belt. I've got the 2 marathons done fairly recently actually, with the poles and all the kit. And I did a little kind of prep run up the last bit of the course, so kind of starting from, I started from Llanberis, ran up the pass, then from Penny Pass, I did the last bit as for the 55k. So that's a bit I've done plenty of times anyway, and I've gone through the course like several times on Google Earth, like without the trail on, just to see if I can memorize what to do. And that's really been the prep, is just like taking it easy, trying to do minimal stressy things as possible, plenty of water. I think like the hydration for me starts like 3 or 4 days out, making sure that you're kind of eating well, eating a bit more than usual. So let's go take a look at the course. We'll spend a few minutes kind of going through what I think are the tricky bits of the course, and then we'll get cracking. We'll pick it up from Saturday morning, leaving for Llanberis. We're going to have a nice chill day. We're going to register, get checked in, and then it's time to race. So this is looking at the GPX file on Google Earth Pro, and I definitely recommend downloading this. Running this on my Mac, but I think you can get it for kind of all OSs. So you load in the GPX file, and then you can see the whole map here. So here it is. So you can see Snowdon kind of right in the middle there. Let's go from the start. I want to kind of highlight which bits I think are going to be tricky and where kind of all of the major ascents are. And zoom right in. So we're starting in the fields, kind of right in between Llanberis and the Slate Museum. We leave, we head down the main high street, and we head up these kind of little tracks here. I've done this bit before. This bit isn't too bad. It's kind of like a gentle ascent. And then this bit here just keeps going. It's like a nice little sort of farm track. And eventually we kind of start this main climb. I think it starts climbing around sort of here, and it goes gradually. Now, the good thing about Google Earth is that, I'm not sure if you can see it down the bottom, it shows the elevation on the bottom right-hand side of the screen. So our first climb, we're going to around 450 meters, but we start at around 100. So around kind of like 300 meters a climb, we go until about here. Now, once you reach this bit, I zoom out a bit to give you some context. So Snowdon's here. I think we've got Moel Elio up to this side. And once you kind of come over this kind of ridge here, you then kind of get to see all of this valley and a lot of where the rest of the race is. So you come down this is all downhill, down the zigzags, and then you're going to hit this road here. What you can do, this is quite nice to do as a reference point, take the little Google Street View man and zoom him in. I've done this a few times just to kind of get it into my head of what it's going to look like. So now I'll be coming down this here, and then you turn left and you just head along this road. You're on this for not too long, so we'll head along all the way down here. This kind of follows a fairly quiet road, to be honest. Let's go all the way along, and then we come to our first stop, which is, just through this little town. Here it is here. So if we head to Google Earth again for this, there's some toilets and a car park just opposite. There they are. So we should be expecting something around here. And this bit, we're going to be heading off down these trails. So let's head back out. And this actually stays quite flat, I think, for a while. We do a fairly gradual climb once we head into these mountains here. So it can seem around 210 meters elevation. And it does climb. It does climb ever so slightly. Nothing too crazy, but yeah, it goes to around kind of 300 meters around here. Let's have a look. And around 400 meters around here. So this is kind of fairly gentle, nice tracks. So I imagine if it's hot, you might be walking some of this. I'll probably be walking some of this bit here as well, just to get some energy and maybe some food in. Okay, next up, we head into this kind of grassy land here. I'm actually expecting a lot of this to be quite wet. So if I head along this here, we keep going, and then we're going to start roughly climbing again here as well. Let's see, yeah, this just keeps going up. And I know from this left turn, I've got this written down in my notes here, once we hit this left turn, this actually starts to climb quite a lot. So we start at 254 meters here. Let's see, right at the top, around 537. So this is kind of one long slog, and I think this bit's going to be quite wet. Kind of just looking at what the weather's been the past couple of days, I'm expecting this to be a bit sludgy and probably quite a slow section. This bit looks fine, and this bit here, these are actually quite nice trails. So when this actually appears in the Street View, I'm not sure if it'll show. Sometimes I can get this to show. I'm not sure which bits of the trail show, but some of it do actually show on the maps. No, maybe not here. Maybe it's further down. But yeah, this bit is actually quite nice, sort of simple gravel tracks. So not worried about this at all. Here we go. We keep going, we keep pushing, and eventually we're going to be hitting Bedgellet Station. This is all downhill as well, so if I kind of take a quick little look, this bit's around kind of 120 meters. Yeah, we're really low here, about 45 meters elevation. So this will all be fairly kind of gradually going downhill. We go over the railway here at Bedgellet, and we stop, which looks like in a car park. So this will be a stop here. I don't think there's toilets here, though. I think the toilet's actually a bit further on, so we'll go through Bedgellet. I think from memory they're after the bridge. Let's see. Yeah, they're around here somewhere, so yeah, don't quote me on that. But yeah, there's no toilets in the car park. That'll be just kind of like your drinking water. But then yeah, you crack on, the toilets are here, and this bit is actually staying flat for a little while as well. So we keep going, we go through this single trail, and eventually we hit this lake here. This also as well is on, this is where it proves me wrong, hopefully not. This is on Google Maps, I think. There it is. And that's quite nice. So yeah, you're on this kind of gravelly track for a while as well, which is nice. So yeah, if it has been wet earlier, hopefully your feet might have time to dry out at this bit. And we keep pushing all the way through the forest, and eventually we cross the road here. This is going to take us up towards Llangwanant. So we go off the road here, and I think there's a stop. Yeah, here it is. Yes, this is just after, this is a campsite here. I think it's a national, yeah, it is, it's a National Trust one. So we stayed it before actually, it's quite nice. So there's meant to be a drinking stop here, which is good. And then I can almost say, like in advance, this is going to be wet here. I've been here quite a few times. It's always been just like muddy, horrible hell. For the UTS last year, we came down this the other way, and it was just like a muddy cesspit. It was awful. Let me just spin the camera around, and we'll take a look at this. And this is going to be gently climbing now. You go over the Elephant Rock. Sorry, if I head back a second. In Llangollen, you can't really see it here, but there is like a rock you kind of go over. So expect a bit of climbing up and down here. This will keep going straight, and then after you hit the power station, this guy, it is going to stop gently climbing, but on quite nice paths. So think like nice paths all the way up, and then at the top here, it's a bit of a cross between kind of like big, kind of large stepping stones and a bit of mud. And eventually you'll be hitting Penny Pass around, just a second, around here. If you go behind this building here, kind of, there's like a little area where there's like a little cafe and like a big 3D map. There's toilets and there's drinking water here as well. So if the aid stop's busy, just go in there and get some water. There's toilets as well, and I think that'll be your last toilets before the summit. And then the pig track, to be honest, I don't think is too difficult to do. It's not like you're going uphill like forever. There's actually quite nice sort of flat bits on it. So this bit isn't too bad. You keep pushing through. You go, you keep going, you keep going. There's a few little mini scrambly sections, but nothing too difficult. If it is wet, I'd really recommend just being careful here. I've seen quite a few people slip over. I've certainly had a couple of close calls myself, especially if you're fatigued and tired. You've got to be super switched on here. You can see where it leaves to go up to Cribgoch, but then at this point here, it actually opens up to a nice view. So you've got this lake down here. As soon as you kind of come over this, like, this bit here, you'll see this view, and this bit is actually quite nice and flat, so you can kind of jog, run down here if you want. And then it basically kind of just repeats. It's kind of like a bit scrambly, a bit flat, and that keeps happening until around, I'd say around here, to be honest. There's a few kind of slippery wet bits where you've got to be really careful. But the last couple of 100 meters, fairly steep, kind of like, yeah, big, large steps. And eventually you'll reach the finger stone. So if I zoom out a bit, it's not actually on top of Snowdon. The top of Snowdon, it's a bit further. Here it is. So we're just below here, so this is going to be the Llanberis path. So pig track is here, Llanberis 1 is here. We'll be turning right and running down. So this bit is nice, this bit is good. This bit is probably the steepest bit coming down here. So be super careful here, especially if you're tired. Keep going down, eventually you'll meet this bridge, you'll turn left here. This bit is a bit slippy, and this steep bit here, these are like kind of really big steps. So kind of, yeah, be careful those if those are wet. And it's pretty smooth sailing from here on down, really. This is the Llanberis path, probably the most popular route up Snowdon. So depending on the day, might be quite busy. I'm not too sure. Normally it's busy here, to be honest. Keep running. You'll be running under the bridge, again, where the train is. This keeps on pushing down and down. Let's see. Eventually, you kind of do come off the mountain. So when it turns right here, this is like a nice sort of tarmac road. I mean, I say nice. Like when your feet are slapping down on this thing, it's awful. But yeah, keep going, keep going. This bit is mega steep. And then, yeah, that's it. You're off the mountain. You passed all these houses here. You turn right, and then you turn left past the Victoria Hotel. You're going to go through this little foresty bit, through the car park, under the bridge, and then left for your kind of hero's finish back into the start. So, that's the route. Let's take a little zoom out again. What I did for this, I kind of made note of course, all the checkpoints, all the cut-offs, and then made note of roughly where the big ascents are. So, of course, you've got one straight off the bat, you've got the big one here, you've got one in these hills here. So not too many like crazy big ascents, but just kind of bearing in mind where they are is kind of helpful for you to prep what's about to happen. So with the course done, let's crack on and see how the weekend goes.
Slightly different location this year, so it's not actually at the farm, it's on the footpath. Very close to farm. Right then, who have we got? I'm going to count it down, folks. Are we ready? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go!
And here we are turning onto the high street of Llanberis. So this little right turn here. 6:30 in the morning, so pretty quiet out. Bit of traffic out for the sort of Snowdon day visitors. But yeah, pretty quiet. Nice conditions, nice and cool. The first couple of K is just kind of getting into the race, so started to walk a little bit here. I do try and walk as much as I can when filming, but this bit was nice. You can see Snowdon off to the left here. And then reaching the top, not too far actually, and then kind of going over this little ridge now to see the other side of this valley, which was nice. And now we're just about to start our first kind of proper run downhill, down the zigzags. Still, I'm trying to be cautious here. I did make the mistake last time of running really fast on the first downhill, getting too overexcited. So played it safe, nice and steady, ran at a comfortable pace, and I think that seemed to pay off later on. Some really nice views off to the left there, so trying to do as best as I can to try and enjoy them, take it all in, appreciate where I am. And in a few minutes we'll be down onto the main road. And this carries on for, I think, less than 2 miles. It's pretty flat, not much traffic, and then we come into our first aid station. Aid station was nice, just a chance to get a bit more water down, tiny bit of food, bit of tailwind, and then off onto these nice flat gravel trails. And we're then into our sort of second uphill. You can see there about 8.3 miles. So again, just kind of topped up on the water, took it easy, tried to keep the heart rate as low as I possibly could. And yeah, just sort of took in the surroundings, enjoyed myself. Really, really nice morning so far. Now on to one of the first sort of technical sections. This bit was really kind of properly muddy. Some bits of rock sticking up as well, so this bit was about just sort of going nice and slow, taking it easy, using the poles, and just playing it safe. That's the mountain on the left there, we'll be going up shortly on the other side. And at this point, there's no real point trying to stay dry anymore. There you go. Good thing I brought the spare socks, so definitely come in handy later on. And then starting the climb up the mountain. Got talking to some really nice people here, which was good. Formed a little group, had a little chat, and before you know it, you kind of ran for like half an hour, which is nice. And then we're starting our downhill now from the mountain section. So should be on some nice gravel trails in just a minute after all this sort of really skinny single track. Shortly after this, you can see Bedgella open up in the distance, and that's kind of, I think it's around the 19.4 mile mark. So it's nicely kind of after the halfway point. And then into the Bedgella aid station. So again, kept it simple. More water, more tailwind, bit of food, topped up, and then I was on my way again. Running through Bedgella, it's always nice. Really small little town. Not gonna lie, I did kind of want to get an ice cream, but that probably wouldn't do great for the old stomach. And this is in between Bedgillet and Llangwanant here. So nice trails again, nice and shaded. And this is after crossing the road now, so we're heading right towards Llangwanant here. Again, really, really muddy this section. Just because of all the rocks sticking up as well, it's a good idea here just to kind of play it safe, you know, take it easy. Try not to make anything go super wrong at this bit. And after that long, horrible, wet section, you finally get to do some uphill. So we're now on this little track up towards Penny Pass. So it starts off like this, and then it gets a bit nicer, so you get onto these kind of big stones instead. And then finally we get the start of the pig track. So at the aid station, it was just a bit more food, changed the socks, and then just had a bit more tailwind as well. Made this bit feel a bit nicer actually, having the fresh socks. I was at least somewhat dry. And you get this really nice view off to your left here. It did start to rain a tiny bit here. And a lot of this bit is actually runnable, so try to keep the camera relatively steady here. But this is a bit that I've done many times before, very familiar with the runnable and non-runnable sections. I think this bit only gets tricky if it's really quite wet. It was quite wet at the top, so I was able to kind of run this bit, you know, take a bit of time to get ahead. At this part of the race, it was nice to think about the difference between how I felt kind of in this moment versus how I felt in the Ultra Trail Snowdonia. Of course, it was a lot cooler on this day, but in terms of like kind of my general fitness, I think I was absolutely worn out at like the halfway point at UTS. Whereas for this one, I think because I'd taken my time, I'd kind of played it safe. You know, I had that calf injury, I had that slight chest infection, so I think playing it safe at the start of this one felt okay. It felt like this bit was quite nice. Feet were a bit sore, legs are a bit sore, but nothing kind of out the ordinary for how I'd normally feel. So at this point in the trail, you can actually see the summit quite nicely, and you can just about see the finger stone, which is the point where we're going to finish. This bit is quite cool actually. This really interesting low cloud kind of came right over really fast. It's cool to stand there for a second and just watch this. And the stairs actually disappear into this right at the top, which was cool. And we spent probably 10-15 minutes in this fog. You can see the train there as well. Well, you can hear it before you could see it. But yeah, a bit of time running through this fog, which is nice and atmospheric. So that's the last section that's really steep in my opinion, kind of under wraps now. There is the road at the end, but this next couple of K are really nice and simple and straightforward. It was surprising how quiet it was today as well. Normally it's a hell of a lot busier. Especially on the weekends, you tend to get a lot of the kind of day trippers coming up this trail. There's also still a nice amount of the marathon and ultra runners left on this trail as well, so it was nice to kind of have a chat, check in with everyone, see how everyone was doing. Nice to kind of get a bit of encouragement for those last couple of miles. And then this is the bit which, to be honest, I really don't enjoy at all. I think it's only because it's kind of a super hard kind of like asphalt or tarmac, whatever it is. And just when your quads and your feet are really sore, this last couple of minutes are like, yeah, you want them to be done with pretty quickly. But yeah, it takes a second, and then finally we're at the finish. This is the home stretch, so you've got maybe, I don't know, a few hundred meters or so, and it's slightly downhill. You've got a little kind of heroes finish. You can hear the village, you can hear everyone cheering for you, which is good. And this is it. Really nice just to kind of get a bit of speed up, and then this is the home stretch. I'm going to switch over to the phone video of this now, because annoyingly the GoPro died. So yeah, here's the finish.
Yay! Go James! Woo!
And that is the Xterra 2024 Ultra Marathon. Upon review, I think it was a really well organised race. The staff were fantastic, really nice community, and I think it was a really, really well organised day. It's definitely one of the highlights of the year so far. It's not so often you get to spend an entire day in this amazing place, going through these little villages and towns, around these lakes and up these mountains. And not to mention the amount of people I spoke to on the way round. It's just so nice to bump into lots of different people, kind of all in the same boat, all doing the same battle together. There are people who are doing their first distance race, and there are some who have done like 5 or 10, which is really impressive. So that feeling of all doing it as kind of one big group, or even just in pairs or threes, is always a lovely feeling to have during a race like this. And that brings us to the end of the video, guys. Thanks so much for watching. If you did the same race or we did one of the other events on the same day, feel free to ping us a comment and let me know your thoughts on your race experience.